Hey guys, welcome back to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. Joe Klemczewski, founder of the Diet Doc, here with Dr. Kori Probst. Today we're going to shift gears and talk about fitness entrepreneurship in the realm of something other than the physical health aspects that we tend to talk about more. So everybody knows Kori is a health psychologist, and we're going to talk a little bit about depression and weight loss and how that can impact. But in that vein of fitness entrepreneurship, Kori, I wanted to mention to you that I was just interviewed last night in the Iron Culture podcast with Omar and Eric Helms. And we had a great conversation. And at the very end, as we were going through a little bit of our history as a company, Eric mentioned you as one of the greatest things, which I agreed, has happened to our company because we started addressing more than just nutrition.
Yes.
And we've been working together now for more than 10 years. So this was not something that was just, a fly-by-night decision, but truly understanding very early on that as much as I, as a nutrition consultant, discuss emotional health and mental health nuances with clients, why not bring in a professional like yourself? So we have that luxury. And I would love to hear your story today so that other fitness coaches, nutrition coaches, can really understand how important this is and how they may need more help than they think they can really offer.
Yeah, thank you for that, Joe. And Eric, if you're listening, thank you. Joe, I'll be excited to listen to it's on the Iron Culture podcast.
Iron Culture, yes. Yep.
Okay, well, I'll be excited to listen to that when that comes out. I don't think we can do this work without having some level of expertise, knowledge, and experience around I'm going to call it a biopsychosocial, emotional, spiritual approach. I think we're severely missing the boat if we're not looking at every aspect of every person, because especially in big lifestyle sort of changes and goals that people are pursuing, all of these different areas and facets of their lives are going to be impacted and impactful on their ability to, sustain a real highly motivated and committed process. So I want to share with everyone just a brief message that one of our Diet Doc mindset and motivation coaches received from one of her clients. And then we'll kind of dig into one of the first pieces that I thought would be most effective to hone in on. So this person said, "I'm feeling down this morning." And how many of us as coaches get information from our clients like this? They go straight into emotion with us. And, I remember when I first started and I'm mentoring personal trainers, them being in this position of, I don't know what to say when they bring me this stuff. I don't know how to respond to them. Coaching has become more and more holistic, though, and we almost we ask for that from our clients. Like, I need to know what you're experiencing in order to help you as effectively as possible. So he said, "I'm feeling down this morning. I decided to weigh myself, and once again, I've gained significant weight. I'm starting to think that reaching my weight loss goals isn't meant to be this time around." So this is a person who's tried multiple times to lose weight, has been on various types of diets. And this person said, "It appears that my life revolves around the following equation. Depression equals weight gain. No depression equals weight loss." So the first thing that I kind of thought about, Joe, was that this individual is very locked in on depression as an identity. I am depressed. That is me, and that is all I am, And that is going to bleed into every single thing I try to do and think about. And none of us are just one thing. We're very good, though, at labeling and categorizing. And this is one reason why I don't like diagnosing. Is it appropriate and can it be helpful? Absolutely. But to the degree that it keeps a person in a box, it can be incredibly harmful. So this person is not just depressed. This person is not just down, or whatever label in the moment he chooses to give himself. He has a whole bunch of other things too, and resources and capacities and strengths of character. And he's got values and principles, maybe some that perhaps he hasn't even necessarily thought about, especially if he's been entrenched in this diagnosis for a very long time. But that is the point of what he could be coached around by our clinician. You are much more than just depression. What else are you? He is other things all at the same time. And so for them to be able to have a discussion around that, how did you feel 5 minutes before? And what other hats do you wear in this life besides the dude with depression who can't lose weight? Are you a dad, father, a husband, an uncle? Are you an employee? Maybe you're a business owner. What are all the other hats and identities that you can use to have a new perception around who you are and what perhaps you could be capable of outside of how you're feeling limited right now?
Kori, for somebody who does have what could be diagnosed as clinical depression,
You bet.
I do find that even though that has to be addressed, and I know people who struggle with that in a way that I will never,
Mm-hmm.
You started out saying this is a bio-psychosocial, and on down the list.
Spiritual. Yeah.
I'm very, very happy you started with bio first because, with weight loss in particular, we do know that because that's so attached to serotonin and dopamine, that you can just give somebody something like a serotonin, not just an SSRI, but something like psilocybin or MDMA or DMT, and all of a sudden they're not hungry. Their mood is so elevated. They're so happy. They don't eat as much.
Food.
And so it is incredibly biological, but
Mm-hmm.
you're probably not going to change that as easily as if you just go through what I know you're going to give us some tips for. And I will say, as a lay person, I love where you're going initially with this, that this is not just your identity,
Mm-hmm.
but I've learned this from you. You're not depressed. Maybe you're not happy with blank. What's the noun?
Mm-hmm.
You're not happy because you had a fight with your spouse, or you're not happy because your job feels like a dead end
Mm-hmm.
train wreck, or this. Don't say I am depressed. What is that object?
Yeah.
So one of the things I've had to do in my own personal life, and this is kind of difficult because I'm a doer. I don't like the pie in the sky, hokey, I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist, and I'm going to, quote, manifest greatness or something like that.
Sorry. Yeah, that's humorous.
I have to say, look, if I'm struggling with anxiety about something, depression about something,
Mm-hmm.
I have to start with my head and say,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that I can do positively
Mm-hmm.
to get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to change if I just sit here and ruminate or catastrophize,
Mm-hmm.
but what can I do tomorrow? And this is the only way sometimes I can go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm really focused on something that I think is negative, I have to say, no, I got to flip the switch and not just ignore it and not just put a positive spin on it, but really start to address it.
Yeah. So to your point, a few things were pinging in my brain as you were sharing your story, Joe. I just got off another mental edge call with a client of mine, and she's stressed. I'm stressed, right? And the whole host of biological manifestations that occur as a result of being stressed, she's experiencing. She feels like her world is narrowing and closing down in on her, like she feels very constricted and tight. And then there are all the thoughts that go along with that, like, I'm not going to be able to do this. Nothing's going to turn out okay. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart. This is all related to, like, it's midterms and school is just very stressful. Her saying, I am stressed, means that, like, every cell of her body is loaded with that. If she were to, like, create a little bit of distance from that, just that word, that label itself, and say, oh, this is an experience of stress. The circumstances in which I find myself have the potential to create this sense of constriction, but they don't necessarily have to. They're more based on the story that I'm telling myself. So I am versus this is can really help to move us a little bit away from and not feel so like that feeling has a stranglehold on us.
So what would you do? This being a fitness entrepreneurship podcast, we have the good fortune that not only are all of our Diet program owners trained extensively in nutrition and even a lot of the mental health issues that you're describing, they have our full support. They can get on the phone with us and say, Kori, I've got this client. What should I do?
Yeah.
And even after having an exclusive license with us, they have the opportunity to go into sub-license categories. And so you mentioned this is one of your mindset and motivation coaches. So this is a diet doc clinician.
It is.
Who now has gone through extensive training with you, a health psychologist, to be able to address these things. What would you say to the average fitness pro out there, the average nutrition consultant who, they just need to make sure that their clients are safe and thinking about other, the right things? Where do you draw the line between you're not a licensed mental health therapist?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was
You cannot do that, but here's what you should do for the benefit, as you said, holistically for your client.
Yeah. So this clinician and I have had conversations around, any talk about the depression medications that this person is on and what their psychiatrist or physician is recommending. You don't go there. That is between the client and their other health professionals. But when it comes to mindset and when it comes to motivation, these are just inherently involved in any sort of behavior change. So to understand what underlies every human's commitment to becoming their best selves and optimizing potential, that's not overstepping any boundaries. It's helping each individual to see that there are a whole host of other possibilities that they may not have considered. So coaches out there, it's going to behoove you to have some level of education about, what change is actually about and what undergirds change and the different theories that are out there, like self-determination theory and the theory of the basic psychological needs and motivational interviewing. These are all areas that you're going to want to understand and have some level of practice with and implementing with your clients to help them not just understand themselves better, but for you as a clinician to understand yourself better. Because when you're in the room, a lot of you are doing online sort of coaching, but when you are communicating with a client, all of your biases, all of your beliefs, the things that you don't know are coming out in that interaction. And it can potentially be harmful for a lot of our clients. We're not necessarily going to do the best work we can do if we haven't had that mentorship and that support and that guidance from someone in the field who has that level of expertise and knowledge and education. But I do want to end this, I think, Joe, with just saying one thing that I don't know that a lot of people think about. So you have this guy who was diagnosed years ago with depression, right? So he identifies with it very strongly. I'm depressed. If he's been depressed for a very long time and he catches glimpses, micro moments of feeling not depressed, those moments in time can feel incredibly foreign. Okay? And as humans, when something feels like foreign, it begins to, if we're judging it, it can start to feel very uncertain, and it can then become not good because it's not normal. This is out of the realm of what I'm used to. And we don't like uncertainty. We don't like feeling like we're on shaky ground, so to speak. So that can be perceived as really uncomfortable and oftentimes wrong.
And it's easier to embrace that identity as somebody who's just depressed. If I'm failing at weight loss, I'm failing at this goal, it just confirms my identity that I just can't do it because I'm depressed.
Absolutely. I can rest then in knowing that to be the case instead of standing in this level of ambiguity and getting curious around that. And that's where really good coaching comes into place, Joe. We, our mindset and motivation coaches, our nutrition coaches, become experts in helping people navigate the ambiguity, that sense of shakiness. I see so much value in the shakiness because it's almost like we're forced to have to dig into the other possibilities that are outside of what maybe we've thought about before. So
it shows us where we have to work if we're going to improve. And that's the positive inside that shakiness. But it's also work. I mean, that is where you have to say, I don't have it all together. I'm not perfect in this area. And maybe that whole identity is something that they don't even think they could shed. Absolutely. Unless they had somebody like you or their nutrition coach to say, let's start the hard work. It's going to be a long process. It's not going to happen overnight. But that is where we have to sit down, camp out, and start hammering.
Yeah. These equations that he has, depression equals weight gain, no depression equals weight loss. It's like we have to say, well, that's great, but there are a lot of other equations. What might those be?
Well, I know this is a huge topic, and we will discuss more of the facets of it, but I would close by saying I hope everybody recognizes how the sneaky therapist in you has an agenda by instantly saying, when somebody says, I'm too depressed, that equals failure, that equals weight gain, to say, oh, but where are you happy? What were you doing 5 minutes ago? What this? And I know because of my own experience working with life coaches and therapists, when they start leading you down that path of just thinking differently and exploring and being curious, I mean, that's when you should pay attention, because that's when you're going to learn something big. And I think that's a great skill that other coaches can take away from what you presented today.
What's interesting is just noticing too, because we've all experienced this, that feeling where we're like, no, I don't think so. Like that's our first inclination to say, no, I don't think that's right. And when we hear ourselves say that, that's when we need to stop and be like, okay, wait.
100% agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. Every time I instantly want to reject something, I have trained myself to say, wait a second. That means I probably need this more than I think.
Yes.
100%. Awesome, Kori. Well, thank you so much for that. And you guys, thanks for watching and listening. And we will catch you next time for more life mastery topics.
Thanks, guys.